Fertilizer markets are on edge. Global uncertainty, especially around China's urea export program, the lack of clarity on phosphate exports, and tight UAN supplies in North America is creating real tension. Prices are reacting, supply chains are strained, and retailers are being pushed to make fast decisions in a volatile environment. I'm Johanna Bota, and with me today to break it all down is StoneX Vice President of Fertilizer, Josh Linville. Hello, Josh. Nice to have you back.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me once again.
So let's start with the global urea markets. What is happening?
All eyes are on China. So we have heard that the government has been having meetings. We believe that they have a program put together, but we don't yet know the details of it. And that's what's frustrating to the rest of the global marketplace. China is one of the largest exporters of urea around the world. They typically represent 10% of the global export flow, and they have not really existed for the last year and a quarter. So there's excitement from buyers around the world that they're going to return, but without knowing what those details are going to be, or even how much the government will truly end up letting out. They could sit there and say, hey, we're going to let 3 million tons flow, but then just decide at the snap of fingers, we don't like that anymore. We're going to shut this down. The world needs details. The world needs firm details before it can really start moving forward.
So, how does Iran fit into this conversation when it comes to the global urea market?
Iran is like the hidden China of the world when it comes to urea, and that's a weird term to say. But for most parties around the world, Iran doesn't really factor into their S&D. It doesn't really factor into their conversation when it comes to urea because we can't do business with Iran. All the sanctions, all the things that we have against them, we just cannot do business with them. But that is a kind of a short-sighted point of view on the marketplace because whether you can buy tons from them or not, those tons still matter to the global S&D. And earlier this year, they had some production issues for about 6, 7 weeks, we believe, due to natural gas issues. Of course, we've had a little bit of a ramp up of tensions when it comes between the U.S., Iran, Houthi rebels. And fortunately, it seems like a lot of this stuff has gone away. But when you look at Iran, how large are they? We believe they exported around 4.8 million tons in 2023. That's about the same size as what China is when they're doing normal paces.
Right. So we still haven't heard much either about the phosphate export program, which could be very worrisome. What's your take on that?
Yeah, when it comes to China, it's good to get urea news as far as what they're going to do. It would be fantastic to get phosphate. They are one of the biggest when it comes to urea. They are the biggest when it comes to phosphate.
Right.
They are easily the largest exporter in the world. And those exports have been non-existent for the first quarter. We have those numbers at about 111,000 tons. When they were normal, the first quarter, they would export around 1 billion tons. So they are significantly lower. And the sound is that even once we start looking at April and May and June, those exports still may not be very large. So again, we need the government to come out. Hopefully they will sit there and say, hey, we are going to allow some exports. Again, we're not going to let it be free flowing. We're trying to keep our supply as high. We're trying to keep our prices low, but we are going to allow some exports to start rolling out. That would be a huge help.
And last week we talked about retailers trying to get buyers to lock in a price for June before the potential of running out of supply. Is that still happening, or has anything changed on that front?
Yeah, the supply chain is still pushing for the retail sector to start buying in their first layer of phosphate. This normally wouldn't happen until June or after. But given what's been going on, again, all these talking points that we've been discussing, the North American marketplace is going to see a very solid spring season. That should mean we end with very low inventories. Chinese exports are still very, very questionable. The U.S. still has duty against 3 of the largest exporting countries in Morocco, Russia, China. And now we've got the tariff situation on the 4th largest, which is Saudi Arabia. So from a U.S. North America perspective, phosphate's in kind of trouble for now.
So that's interesting that you bring that up because the U.S. just has, because the U.S. just made a mini deal with the U.K. They have a 90-day truce with China, which is good news, but still uncertain. We have, or the U.S. has a rare minerals deal with Ukraine, and we're probably expecting a few more. How does that impact the fertilizer market?
Unfortunately, it's not really helping us much. When you look at the UK situation, there's not a lot of fertilizer that's produced in the UK. In fact, because of the European natural gas situation, the UK has actually been receiving a lot more product from the US. So they've just been struggling with production. Ukraine, they produce a little bit of fertilizer, but not a tremendous amount, not enough to really move the needle globally speaking. And the China situation could be massive,
Mhm.
but we've not heard that that includes any sort of duty removal. That's what the phosphate market truly needs. And in fact, the fertilizer market in general, because we do have duties across the board on all the fertilizers that they export. So it makes it very difficult to impossible for them to send product to the US directly.
Let's talk about now UAN supplies, which remain tight in North America. Has anything changed since we last spoke?
Unfortunately, no. We have not seen anything change. The month of May, it is still extremely difficult to find any new supplies outside of a few truckloads here and there. There's still some switching by the farm gate. Manufacturers maybe run a little bit better at their plants than what they expect, so they have a few extra ton. But as far as solid inventories, no, that situation remains unchanged. And now retailers are basically being pushed to say, if you want your June tons, we better lock them in now, or else they may not be there.
Do you have any advice for anyone listening about what they should do when it comes to fertilizers and buying them?
Unfortunately, the best advice I can give today, it's human nature when things get hard, when they get difficult, when they get stressful. We want to duck down, right? We want to stick our head in the sand. We don't want to pay attention. And we want to hope that when we do finally lift our heads back up, everything's fine, everything is calmed down. That goes against everything that we should be doing. During these times, this is exactly when we ought to be talking more to our supplier. We ought to be having more conversations. How are you looking? How's your supply? What do you have available? When will it be available? What should I do differently so that we all kind of get through this with as few little hiccups as we can see possible? So that's the best advice I can give today. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of it. The time for preparation and things like that is done. Now it's a matter of let's get through this as best we can. Keep your heads up, keep it on a swivel, and we'll get through it. We always do. The ag sector always finds a way.
All right, so you're saying communication is key. Thank you.
It
And
certainly is.
thank you for watching. For more financial content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.